Welcome to HP FanFiction. Support me by subscribing the channel. Also, like and share the video to keep me motivated to make more videos like these. Daphne chuckled. Maybe I should explain that better. Harry raised an eyebrow. Yes, I would very much like that. Here, she pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to him. Harry sat down and read the contents of the sheet. A soul-bonding ritual. He glanced at her. What is this all about? She sat down next to him. I'm coming with you. Harry stared at her in silence for a moment. Do you even understand what you're saying? Do you even know where I'm going? I don't know and I don't care, she huffed. I want us to stay together. That's what I've been doing these past weeks, researching this ritual and gathering all the necessary ingredients. Harry shook his head. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Wait, I remember this ritual. This came from my family vault. He turned to glance at her. Are my parents involved in this? Daphne looked a bit guilty. Only your mother. I needed her help, so I had to give her an explanation. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to keep it a secret for a bit longer. That explained the looks he had been receiving from his mother for the last few days. Forget about that, I don't care. But why didn't she try to change your mind about this madness? She tried, but I'm determined. Daphne leaned closer. Do you not want me at your side? I don't want you to die. This is ridiculous. Harry stood up from the couch. I have a good reason to go. If I don't, this world and many others won't last much longer. But you have your whole life ahead of you. I also have a good reason. Daphne stood up. Harry, I love you. He took a step back. This is where your mother gave up on convincing me, Daphne said. But what about you, Harry? What do you feel about me? Because if it's not the same, then you're right, and I shouldn't be doing this. Daphne, Harry muttered her name. It's easy, just tell me that you don't love me and I'll give up this plan. Daphne said with a firm tone. Tell me to my face that you don't want me. Harry took a long breath. Fine, I don't want you. Daphne's expression didn't change one bit. That's a lie. What? You said, only if you truly meant it. Daphne snapped. How do you even know that I'm lying? He asked. I can always tell when you're lying. You're terrible at it, Daphne exclaimed. I'm not. My occlumency is Tade. You're terrible at lying to me, she interrupted him. Harry sighed. Okay. Tell me the truth, Daphne demanded. You owe me at least that. You know, maybe I didn't realize it until tonight, but I think I do love you. That's why. Harry's wand appeared in his right hand. I can't let you do this. Daphne didn't move or try to take her own wand out. She just continued to look at him. And what? Are you going to use the Imperious Curse? Because I might resist that. Or maybe an Obliviate. I might break that too, she said, pointing at the fireplace. Just like I remember finding that disgusting corpse in there during my first year. Harry looked shocked. You remember that? Since when? A while ago. I told you, Harry. You can't lie to me. Still, Harry clutched his wand. So you'll take that decision away from me? Will you force your will on me? Daphne asked. Harry frowned. That's not a fair thing to say. That's not a fair thing to do, Daphne shot back. She then walked closer, but Harry didn't fire a spell at her. She gently moved his wand aside and wrapped her arms around his neck. I love you and you love me back. Wherever you're going, I'm going with you. Whatever happens afterward, we'll face it together. Is that clear? Harry stowed his wand and placed his hands around her waist. Since when are you so dominant? Daphne grinned. Do you like it? He brought his face closer to hers. I don't hate it. After saying that, he leaned in and kissed her. They began slowly, but soon enough their kiss became more passionate. Eventually their lips parted and they stared at each other in comfortable silence. Are you sure this is what you want? Harry felt he had to ask one last time. I am, Daphne responded without hesitation. And your family, you won't see them again. Daphne nodded solemnly. I know, and that hurts a lot, but it would hurt more to live without you in my life. My family will be fine without me. Now that Astoria is well and healthy, she can take over the role of heiress. Harry realized that she must have been thinking about this since their earlier conversation. Very well, let me see that paper again. The two of them sat down and talked about the ritual in great detail. Daphne had already studied it thoroughly and collected everything they would need. Wait, I still don't understand why you mentioned marriage before. That's not part of the ritual, Harry said. If that had been a joke, it was very out of character for her. Oh, that, she pointed at the paper. That's just a transcript I made. In the original text, there's a mention that if the couple has already been bonded through a traditional magical wedding, it drastically increases the odds of success. So you were serious? Harry asked. Of course, she told him. And by the way, I'm still waiting for your answer, she said with a mischievous smile. A few days later, Gryffindor's common room. Congratulations, Luna said in a cheerful voice. You are. Ouch. Lyra fell from the couch, the shock too much for her to handle. Neville hurried to help her up. Are you okay? Harry, this isn't a joke, right? Even Ginny had a hard time believing it, despite knowing very well that Harry wasn't one to make things up for attention or any other vain reason. Astoria looked down, focusing on her book. You already knew, didn't you? Lyra pointed an accusatory finger at Astoria as Neville helped her up. No comment. Astoria looked away. So it's with Daphne, Lyra exclaimed. Who else? Harry glanced at his sister like she was an idiot. Isn't it too soon to get married? Ginny asked, noting that Harry had said married and not engaged. He seemed unlikely to have made a mistake like that. It wasn't strange for students to get engaged before completing school, especially among wizarding families, but marrying was a different story. When's the wedding? Luna asked calmly. She was the only one who seemed unfazed by the revelation. Around mid-April, Harry answered. What? That's just 1 month from now. What's the rush? Lyra was still in disbelief. She may have been aware of their relationship, but this had come out of nowhere. Lyra's right, Neville said. Why so sudden? Even among traditional pure-blood families, getting married this young is unusual. Is something else going on? Harry had to admit he'd expected the question, but not from Neville. I can't talk about that right now, but Everyone went silent as they heard noises from above. The door upstairs opened and people began coming down. Who's making so much racket this early in the morning? The voice was unmistakably Lavender's, as the girl was always speaking. I'll take anything that gets you out of bed a bit faster, Hermione spoke. Lavender was the first to descend the stairs, giving the group a passing glance. How unusual to see this lot so animated. Wait, her eyes landed on Luna and Astoria. Aren't those two from Ravenclaw? What are they doing in our common room? Luna perked up. The door was open, she said without missing a bit. Seriously, who could have left the door open? Lavender asked. You idiot. You can't leave the painting open. It closes by itself, Parvati scolded her friend. They must have sneaked in. By the way, I think I heard someone say something about getting married. Hermione mentioned. Did I hear that right? Married? Who's getting married? A professor? Lavender asked. My brother. Lyra pointed at Harry. Lyra, Ginny exclaimed. Oh, was I not supposed to tell anyone? Lyra made an expression of regret. Well, I didn't want the entire school to know. But, I didn't expect you to keep a secret like this for more than a day anyway. I knew the consequences when I decided to tell you, Harry said. Hey, that's not fair, Lyra muttered. He's got a point, Lyra, Neville added. You have a hard time keeping things to yourself. She turned to him. I haven't told anyone that you still sleep with a teddy bear in your bed, have I? Seriously, Hermione glanced at Neville. Ha! Lavender pointed at him, bursting into laughter. Neville's cheeks turned bright red. It's not a teddy bear, it's a unicorn. That doesn't help as much as you think, Neville, Ginny said. Yes, it does, Luna intervened. Unicorns are much cooler than bears. It's not even on my bed, just resting on the night table, most of the time, Neville muttered. Okay, can we talk about Neville's teddy bear later? I want to know more about Harry getting married, Parvati said. It's not a teddy, Neville muttered again. Yes, I want to know too. Lavender perked up. Who's the... Wait, was that rumor true then? She suddenly remembered something important. You mean the one with the Slytherin girl? Parvati asked. That one, Lavender nodded. Didn't you make that one up? Hermione asked her. No, I just heard it and chose to ignore it. It seemed too unbelievable, Lavender scoffed. I have standards, you know. Didn't you tell everyone that our first-year defense professor was a vampire? Hermione retorted. Can we focus, please? Parvati approached Harry. Is it true? Are you marrying Greengrass? She glanced at Astoria briefly. Yes, it's true, Harry admitted. There was no point denying it now. Still, he kind of wished he hadn't returned to school. Perhaps he could have pretended to be sick for a few more months. On the other hand, being here gave him a chance to spend more time with his mother, his sister and Daphne. So there were some upsides. This has to be the juiciest rumor I've ever heard. Lavender was excited. But it's not a rumor if Harry confirmed it, Ginny pointed out. That's right. At this point it's just news, Hermione added. The juiciest news then, Lavender concluded. Okay, now we can talk about Neville's teddy bear, Parvati teased. No, Neville exclaimed. Merlin, those girls are always screaming. They heard Ron complain as he came down the stairs, looking sleepy. Seamus Finnegan and Dean Thomas were right behind him. Whoa, there are a lot of people already awake, Dean noted. Hold on, Seamus glanced at Luna and Astoria. Those two aren't Gryffindors. AC, that's true, Ron realized. How did you two get in here? The door was open, Astoria replied simply. Really? Ron turned to his friends. Who was the idiot that left the door open? Daphne walked across the great hall under the tentative gaze of everyone present and arrived at the Gryffindor table. Do you mind? She asked Hermione. Not at all. The bushy-haired girl hurried to make room for Daphne to sit down next to Harry. So, everyone knows already? Daphne asked. I'm not sure about everyone. Harry glanced around the hall. All the students and even the professors were staring at them with interest. Okay, everyone. You told Lyra, didn't you? Daphne asked.
Hey, I heard that Lyra complained.
This was mostly Lavender's doing though, Hermione said. Yes, I've never seen her run so much, Parvati added. I am exhausted, Lavender admitted, gasping for air. Fantastic, Daphne rolled her eyes. You're not really upset, Harry noted. Only a little bit, she admitted, leaning closer, because now I can be with you in public, no more sneaking around. She leaned in further and gave him a wet kiss on the lips. So, you two have been together for a while, huh? Hermione asked, trying to distract herself from the awkwardness of being so close to them. It's not even been a year yet, so not that long, Daphne replied. I can't believe I passed on a rumor that turned out to be true. What a waste, Lavender said. I swear this from now on I will spread every rumor I hear. Don't do that, please, Hermione begged. Yeah, that's not a good idea, Lav, Parvati agreed. Excuse me. They turned to find Professor McGonagall staring at Harry and Daphne. While I understand your situation and am very glad for you two, I would appreciate it if you kept your displays of affection away from the public eye, the professor said. Hold on, wasn't that one of Umbridge's rules? I thought those were taken down, Lyra asked. McGonagall shook her head. We did not remove all of them. I have to admit some of her regulations seemed appropriate and the other professors agreed to keep a few. Very few had questioned Professor Umbridge's disappearance after the battle. She had not left a strong impression on the students other than being an annoying educator who was there for half a year and then disappeared. This was mostly because Harry had prevented her from inflicting any physical harm on the students with her blood quill with his constant memory wipes. Her class was now being taught by the headmaster until they found someone else for the job. Professor Rookwood had been even less memorable than the ghost who held the position before him. History was now being taught by 3 of Hogwarts' ghosts, those tied to each of the houses. The Ravenclaw ghost was the only one missing, as she had rejected the offer. Oh, Lyra muttered. She and Neville have broken quite a few rules if those have not been removed from the wall. Neville groaned. He was thinking the same thing as his girlfriend. He did not want to get more detentions this year. Noticing Lyra's guilty expression, McGonagall added, I would advise you to take a good look at that wall again, unless you want to end up in detention, Miss Potter. Yes, ma'am. Lyra looked away, feeling embarrassed. McGonagall turned to Harry. And you too. We will be careful, Professor, Daphne replied. I know you will, and congratulations. With that, the professor took her leave. Harry glanced at the professor's table, where his mother sat. Lily had a wide smile on her face and seemed to be enjoying seeing them together. The next month passed by extremely quickly. Harry could finally relax and stop worrying about dark wizards and looming threats. From what his father had told him, the new administration was very competent in removing Voldemort's remaining allies and keeping a close eye on sympathizers. As the new head of the Aura Department, James was determined to ensure that no new Dark Lords would appear anytime soon. Harry's life at school was mostly tranquil, aside from dealing with the attention he received from the other students. But he was already used to that, and no one had dared to do more than watch from afar and whisper behind his back. He could tolerate that much. Daphne was happy that she could now walk beside him through the halls and sit by his side in the Great Hall. Normally a Slytherin girl dating someone from Gryffindor would have raised many complaints from the House of Snakes, but Daphne never heard a single thing from her housemates. Wanting to spend as much time with his family as possible, Harry often visited his house to speak with his father or check on Holly. His little sister had changed a lot since he first saw her. In just 2 years she would be attending Hogwarts as a first year, and she was excited to learn magic. Harry had a feeling she would excel at runes, since she was being tutored by Victoria. He deeply regretted that he wouldn't be there to watch Holly grow into a magnificent witch. His hopes for Lyra were somewhat lower, but she had shown some interest in defense against the dark arts. If that was the path she chose to follow, the grimoire left behind by him would be very useful to her. As for Victoria, his alter ego, Harry hadn't interacted with her much. He knew she intended to claim the lordship of the ancient Black House. Harry had never cared for titles and couldn't understand putting so much effort into claiming one, but he felt the title of Lady Black held special significance for Victoria, beyond the wealth it offered. To her it was likely a faint connection to her old life, and her first family. A small group of people had been gathered at Hogwarts' astronomy tower. It was already dark and well past curfew, so the halls were empty of students except for the few present here. A well-dressed Harry stood in the center of the room. Beside him was Daphne, wearing a traditional witch's dress adorned with intricate gold decorations. It was something passed down through many generations of her family. Standing in front of them was Dumbledore. The headmaster held an ancient-looking book reading through its contents. "Let's see, I have to use this part and then—" Daphne leaned closer and whispered into Harry's ear. "Does he know what he's doing?" "I'm sure he can figure it out," Harry responded. Traditional magical weddings like the one they were performing had long fallen out of fashion, leaving few wizards knowledgeable on the subject. "No, it's this part, you see." McGonagall was next to Dumbledore, trying to help him turn the pages since it was difficult to do so with one hand. At the sides of the classroom were some of their family members, who had come to bear witness to the union. Daphne's parents, along with her sister Astoria, stood on the right side. Harry's parents, along with his 2 sisters, were on the left. Lily and James were having a small argument over the camera they had brought. "James, I swear to Merlin if you don't get that thing working I'm going to—" "Wait, I've got it," James hurriedly said. "I think I was pressing the wrong side, heh." "Dad, how can you forget how to use a magical camera?" Lyra was in shock. "Seriously, Dad, how can you?" Holly echoed her sister's words. "Not you too," James groaned. "Okay, go stand over there." Lily ushered him away. "I want as many pictures as you can take." Master Harry, Dobby was crying at the back of the room. "Shoo, don't interrupt the ceremony," Mipsy whispered beside him. The only family member they had left at home was Victoria, who had refused to visit the castle even for a short while. "Very well, I believe we are ready to commence," Dumbledore finally announced. It appeared that he and McGonagall had sorted everything out. James moved to stand at one corner, where he could take good pictures of the couple. "This is happening too soon." Lily couldn't help but shed a few tears. "Well, you don't have to worry about me getting married anytime soon. At least," Lyra commented. "You better not, you're only 14, Lily said firmly, casting a wary glance at her. "She is going to have to keep a closer eye on Neville." "I'm never getting married," Holly declared. "Hun." Lily looked at her youngest. "Boys are icky," Holly added. "Pfft, you say that now," Lyra chuckled. "That's enough, you two. Now keep quiet." Lily hushed them so she could listen to Dumbledore. The headmaster began to read from the ceremonial book. Most of the verses were written in Latin, speaking of the origins of the tradition and the meaning of the magical union between 2 magical people. The connection formed during the ceremony was much more profound than the Muggle version, as it created a link between their magic. In fact, this ceremony could be considered a mild ritual of sorts, and the only one that could still be legally performed. The witnesses could feel the magic stirring around Harry and Daphne as Dumbledore continued speaking. Harry and Daphne stood in front of each other, their arms interlocked. "I can feel something," Daphne whispered. Harry nodded. Me too. A link is being formed like a contract. After a couple more minutes, McGonagall approached them as Dumbledore finished his chanting. It's my turn. I'll do the last part, McGonagall said, pointing her wand at their hands. She uttered a few words and a red rope appeared, wrapping around their wrists and hands. The rope began to emit a powerful light before vanishing in a flash, leaving behind a mark on their arms that disappeared soon after. It is done, McGonagall announced. Your magic is now bonded until death sets you apart. Daphne and Harry's arms unwrapped, and she threw herself at him, kissing him passionately. This is not part of the ceremony, Dumbledore pointed out. Oh well. Ew, I don't want to see this, Lyra muttered, looking away. Lily, however, was signaling James to take more pictures. McGonagall waited until they finished their kiss to continue. Congratulations. By the laws of magic, you are now husband and wife. Yes, congratulations, Lily began clapping, and the rest soon followed. So I guess I'm Daphne Potter now, she told Harry with a warm smile. You are. Welcome to the family, James exclaimed, snapping another picture. Congratulations, sis, Astoria said, approaching her. Thank you, Tori. Daphne then glanced at her parents. She hadn't seen her father this emotional since the day she dueled a Malfoy. I'm so proud of you, Daphne, said her mother, Celine. Hold on, there is one more part written here, Dumbledore said, flipping through the book again. I believe it's this part here, let's see. McGonagall hurriedly took the book from him. I think the groom and bride are a bit young for that part yet. Did we miss something? Harry turned to Daphne for an answer. She had been the one studying these old magical customs. Daphne pulled out her wand. Hold me, she said. Harry immediately grabbed her free hand and in the next instant they disappeared from the astronomy tower. Where did they go in such a rush? James asked, looking around. Minerva, do you know something? Lily inquired, confused. Her own wedding had been more Muggle-styled, so this ceremony was unfamiliar to her. The last part, McGonagall began, would be the bedding. But that's… Oh. James finally realized where his son and his new wife had gone. I see, Lily said, appearing unbothered. She reminded herself that Harry was at least mentally an adult. Albus, we cannot allow this. They are too young, McGonagall said, frowning. Dumbledore glanced at the parents, none of whom seemed to object. If the parents don't mind, it is not our place to complain. McGonagall turned to the Greengrass parents. It is a sacred custom, I have no issues with it, Lord Greengrass said. Yes, and we trust Harry, Lady Greengrass added. Where did Harry and Daphne go? Holly asked, tugging on Lyra's robes. Lyra's face turned slightly red. You're too young to know. What? Why am I always too young to know everything? Holly pouted, glaring at her sister. Wait, did Daphne use apparition inside the castle? How did she do that? Aren't the wards working? McGonagall suddenly asked. Dumbledore looked pensive, now that you mention it. On the outskirts of the castle there was a small hill covered in trees overlooking the large clearing around Hogwarts. Daphne and Harry appeared on that hill. Harry looked around, quickly recognizing the spot. It was a place he often visited when he needed to think or find peace. He had shown it to her a while ago. It's one of my favorite spots near Hogwarts. I thought it was appropriate for tonight, Daphne said softly, touching the ground with her wand to conjure a large, comfortable-looking bed. We could have gone to the room of requirement, Harry suggested. No, the first night has to be outside, under the stars, Daphne replied, glancing up at the clear sky. The moonlight provided more than enough illumination and the stars above were countless. Isn't it beautiful? It is, Harry said, though he wasn't looking at the sky. What are you doing? Daphne asked mischievously. Admiring my new wife, I suppose. Daphne sat down on the bed and stretched her arms. You don't have to admire me. Come closer. Are you? Don't ask me if I'm sure again. Daphne interrupted him. Unless you want to spend the night with Madame Pomfrey instead, she scoffed. Of course I'm sure. I want to enjoy every second we have left together. She tapped to the bed beside her. Now, are you going to make me enjoy every second? I will try my best to fulfill my lady's request, Harry said, joining her on the bed. They're missing again. Hermione glanced around the classroom. They had defense against the dark arts with the Slytherins, and it was clear that both Harry and Daphne had skipped class. This had become a common occurrence over the past 2 weeks. I bet they're doing it in some empty classroom, Lavender commented with a mischievous grin. Lav, don't be so vulgar, Hermione scolded her, cheeks flushing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, Parvati said. They're a married couple, so it should be normal, right? They're still students and need to attend classes, Hermione insisted, her face turning rosier at the mere implication. But are they really married? No one saw the wedding. Maybe it's just an excuse to sneak around together, Parvati suggested. You don't need an excuse for that, Hermione retorted, casting a side glance. You can ask Lavender about that. What's that supposed to mean? Lavender snapped. Defensive. She means we saw you leaving a broom closet with Michael Corner the other day, Parvati said, pointing a finger at her. What? No, I mean, you know he's dating like 3 other girls, right? Hermione asked, unimpressed. It's not like that. It was just a one-time thing, I swear, Lavender exclaimed. Yeah? Well, excuse me. The girls jumped in their seats as they heard someone tapping on their table. Turning their heads, they saw the towering figure of Albus Dumbledore, his expression calm but curious. Is my class so dull that it cannot hold your attention? Hermione's face turned pale. Not at all. Your class is fascinating, Professor. Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. Then what topic could possibly divert your focus from it? We were just talking about. Hermione hesitated, struggling for words. Harry and Daphne. Parvati finished for her. That's right, Lavender said quickly, pointing toward the empty desk. They've been skipping a lot of classes. We were just wondering why. She hoped this would redirect the professor's attention. I see. Dumbledore glanced at the vacant seats. He of course knew exactly where they were. Today they mentioned going to Italy. Dumbledore himself had provided them with several international portkeys, allowing them to travel freely. His heart felt heavy as he thought about the immense sacrifice they were preparing to make for the continued existence of the wizarding world. I wish it could be me instead. Professor? Hermione's voice broke his thoughts. She didn't understand why his expression had suddenly turned so somber. The usual twinkle returned to Dumbledore's eyes, accompanied by a small smile. It's nothing, Miss Granger. I will speak to those 2 about their absences. As for you 3, I recommend focusing on the lecture. Next year is your OWL year, and it is arguably the most important examination of your academic career. Yes, Professor, the 3 girls responded in unison. Now, let us continue where we left off. Dumbledore returned to the front of the classroom. Harry and Daphne appeared at the entrance to Hogsmeade in the late afternoon. Finally back home. Wait, Harry, this is not Hogwarts. Daphne frowned. She had expected the portkey to drop them off closer to the castle. Harry shrugged. The return must have been programmed here by default. I doubt whoever made the international portkey thought it'd be used by school students. Dumbledore got them, but the international portkeys had to be created by authorized personnel at the ministry. I suppose it doesn't matter. We can apparate from here, Daphne said. What's the rush? We still have 3 hours until curfew. Let's have dinner in the village and then head back. Daphne smiled, warming to the idea. All right, we can do that. As they strolled through the village, Harry asked, So, what did you think of the Italian magical village? He had cast a mild disguise charm on them to avoid being recognized, as this was not an approved Hogsmeade weekend for students. Daphne considered his question. It was nice, smaller than Diagon Alley, but the food was amazing. I know, right? That 3-layer pizza was incredible, Harry said enthusiastically. Daphne made a complicated expression. I don't know about that one, they put pineapple in the middle layer. Harry laughed. Where do you want to go next? We could visit Spain. I went there with my mum a couple of years ago. Or maybe... Daphne moved closer and took his arm, resting her head on his shoulder. Daphne. Harry glanced at her. She smiled softly. I don't care where we go as long as I'm with you. I know it will be fun. The next 2 weeks were spent traveling across the globe. This was in many ways their honeymoon. Thanks to Dumbledore's assistance, they avoided any trouble with the school, and Minister Shacklebolt ensured they had no shortage of portkeys. No matter where they went, Harry and Daphne were welcomed with open arms and treated like royalty. During their travels, Daphne made a point of visiting her mentor, Lady Morgana Yafel. She spoke about everything happening in their lives but deliberately left out the soul-binding ritual and the plans she and Harry had made. Morgana, however, was not easily deceived. She sensed something significant was in the works but chose not to press her protégé. Time flew by, as it often does when one is happiest. Before they realized it, 2 more weeks had passed and the day to perform the ritual had arrived. After that, they will have no choice but to inform their families about the reality of the situation and what they intend to do. D-Day, Ministry of Magic. In the deepest parts of the Department of Mysteries there lies an extensive chamber containing nothing but a single stone arch, situated at its center. This stone structure is ancient, predating even the construction of the ministry itself. No one knows who built it or for what purpose. A grey mist covers the interior of the arch, making it impossible to see what lies on the other side. Any living being who gets too close risks having their soul sucked out of their body and dragged into the mist. The Unspeakables have named this mysterious artifact the Veil. This room is rarely visited. Of course, everyone working here is well aware of the dangers posed by the Veil. They know they'll be safe as long as they don't venture too close. But the Veil has become closely associated with the physical representation of death itself. That thought makes people uneasy. After all, no one likes to think about death. Today, however, this room was crowded. They weren't here to observe the Veil, but to bid farewell to 2 young individuals. Harry and Daphne stood surrounded by their loved ones. The soul bonding ritual had been a success, and now it was time for them to leave. This was their last day in this world. Lily Potter was crying, held tightly by her husband. No matter how much they understood the necessity of this event, losing their son was still an incredibly painful experience. Lyra and Holly had been left at home. Though their eldest daughter had a basic understanding of what was happening and the reasons for it, Lily and James had decided she was too young to witness this moment. Holly, being even younger, wouldn't understand at all. They'd explain it to her later, and that was not a conversation they were looking for. Dobby was also present, as Harry's personal house elf. Daphne's parents stood stoically, visibly affected but trying to remain composed. Albus Dumbledore was at the head of the group alongside Minister of Magic Kingsley Shacklebolt, who had granted them access to the room. The minister had been given a summary of the dimensional anomalies, though he could comprehend only a small part of it. Still, his faith in Harry and Dumbledore was absolute. When told this was necessary, he did not hesitate to offer his full support. The final person in the chamber was Professor Silverbell. As the foremost expert on space-time anomalies, his presence was crucial to confirm that Harry's sacrifice would achieve the intended effect. While Daphne exchanged goodbyes with her family, Harry did the same. "Is there really an—" "Please, stop asking that," Harry interrupted his father, cutting off the same question for the 100th time. "It's not fair," Lily said through her tears. "You've already sacrificed so much to save the world from that monster. Why must you do it again? All my efforts will be for nothing if this world collapses and you all die. I won't let that happen." Harry's tone was firm. "It should be the parents' job to sacrifice themselves for their children," James said bitterly. Harry stared at them for a moment. "But you already did. I wouldn't be here if not for your sacrifice. I got to live this long because there was a time and place when you gave up your lives to protect me. But that wasn't us. It was," Lily began. "They were still you. Different versions. Yes, but I know you would have made the same choice they did. That's all that matters," Harry explained. "Master Harry Potter," came a small voice. Harry turned to see Dobby, who looked hesitant. "You got my name right," Harry said with a small smile, kneeling to the elf's level. He pulled a piece of fabric from his pocket. "No," Dobby's eyes widened in panic. "I'm sorry, Dobby. I can't take you with me. I know being free can be scary, but remember, the Potters will always be your family." "Can Dobby stay?" the elf asked hopefully. "Of course you can stay, Dobby," James reassured him. "You're part of the family, after all," Lily added. Harry placed the handkerchief into Dobby's hands, breaking their bond. "You can make your own decisions now. That's what being free is all about." Harry then stood and hugged his parents tightly. "I love you," Lily said softly. "We'll never forget you, son," James added. When the embrace ended, Harry turned to face the others. "Minister Shacklebolt," he said, "just promise me you'll take good care of magical Britain. There are still issues buried deep beneath the surface. Voldemort was just a symptom. Don't let another rise. I'll do my best, the minister promised. Finally, Harry faced Dumbledore. I guess this is it, Professor, Harry said. I don't recall teaching you enough to deserve that title, Dumbledore replied, a twinkle of sadness in his eyes. Perhaps it was in another life, Harry said. But you earned it. That may be so, but I believe it would be adequate for you to address me by name now. That was a lifetime away, after all, Dumbledore reasoned. Harry nodded. Goodbye, Albus. Goodbye, Harry, and who knows, we may meet again soon enough. Harry walked further toward the Vale, and stopped before the steps that led to the stone arch. He then felt a hand grabbing onto his own. Afraid? Harry asked, looking at her. Daphne shook her head. I thought I would be, but I'm not. The ritual was a success, and our souls were bonded together. Whenever this takes us, we will be together. That's right, Harry said, and who knows, this may just be the beginning of our next grand adventure. That would be nice. The force of her grip became firmer. Ready? Harry asked her. She leaned forward and gave him a soft kiss on his lips. Ready? Harry's black robes seemed to react to their words, and it began to grow in size. In an instant it became large enough to envelop both their bodies in its protective embrace. Their hands were now connected by the robes, as if they were one. Like this, they walked the steps towards the Vale, under the watchful eyes of everyone present. Normally when a person got this close to the Vale, their souls would be pulled out, killing them instantly. But Harry and Daphne were allowed to walk all the way until they reached the grey fog, and then they moved inside and disappeared into the unknown. They are gone, Shacklebolt exclaimed. There are no records of any living being able to completely venture inside the gate with their physical bodies. Even someone like Dumbledore, who understood the nature of Harry's robes, could not know for sure if this anomaly was caused by the protection of the robes or by Harry's status as Master of Death. It was also unknown how much of that protection has extended to Daphne. Harry, is he really gone? Lily asked no one in particular. Personally, said Dumbledore, I would like to think that they still exist somewhere else now. Magic is a wonderful thing and we still don't know what it's truly capable of. The group stood there, looking at the Vale for almost an hour after their departure, waiting to see if anything happened. But nothing did. Harry and Daphne were gone forever and will never return. Whatever their fate was beyond the Vale will remain a mystery for those present in this chamber. Professor Silverbell took several days to complete all his tests. Once finished, he went to inform Dumbledore of the results. The excited gnome brought incredible news. The spatial anomalies had completely disappeared, and the walls between realities were stable once more. In fact, they were much stronger now, and Professor Silverbell estimated that no further issues would arise for at least 1,000 years. However, the cause of this stability was likely the unknown number of dimensions that had collided and subsequently disappeared, much like the one Victoria Potter had come from. After a long conversation with Silverbell, Dumbledore decided to personally visit the two families and deliver the news. He felt he owed them the courtesy of confirming that their children's sacrifice had not been in vain, and that they had truly saved everyone. He first arranged a meeting with the Greengrass family, who received the news with their usual dignity and calm demeanor. Then the headmaster went to Potter Manor. Since the school year had not yet ended and both parents were busy working, Dumbledore made sure to inform them ahead of time about his visit. Other than James and Lily, the only ones at home were Holly and Victoria. Dumbledore was sitting in the living room, sipping delicious tea while chatting with James and Lily. They never doubted that Harry was going to succeed, but they were still glad to hear the confirmation from Dumbledore. Suddenly he felt something hit his leg. He looked down. What is this? A small white golem lay on its back. It was evident that it had been moving around before falling over after colliding with his leg. Sorry about that, James said. I told Holly not to let it run around by itself. It moves by itself. Fascinating, Dumbledore remarked as he picked up the tiny construct. It was much lighter than expected, and he could easily hold it with one hand. The white golem reminded him of the ones resting beneath Hogwarts. Harry and Daphne made that one for Holly, Lily explained. Dumbledore nodded. That made sense. If Harry and Daphne created it, they must have based its design on the marble golems. A very refined piece of work, he commented, examining the runes engraved on the golem. He knew that runes had never been Harry's forte. I assume Daphne wrote the runes. No, actually Wait. James began to say, but Dumbledore interrupted him, visibly agitated. What's wrong? Lily asked, concerned. These runes, they were the same as those engraved on the real white marble golems. He had studied them for years but had never found any reference to them in books. The only conclusion he could draw was that they belonged to an extremely ancient language lost to time. And now he was seeing them again, on a child's toy. Did Daphne do this? No, I was saying it, Pouah. Golly 3. Holly came running into the living room. There you are. She rushed directly for the golem. Holly, what did I tell you about letting it run wild? The last time it began chasing poor Mipsy, James scolded gently. I'm sorry. Holly apologized as she picked up her toy. You wanted to know who did the runes? That would be me, Victoria said, appearing behind her. Dumbledore's gaze shifted from Holly to Victoria. You did? Yes. Harry made the original rune functions, but they were very sloppy, so I fixed a few of them. Now the golem can run, jump, and even dance. Why are you so interested in it? Victoria asked, still wary of the old man, and refusing to come closer. Dumbledore pointed at the golem. The strange runes on the lower part, where did you learn those? Ah, I know what you mean, Lily interjected. I also found them peculiar when I first saw them. Of course, Lily didn't know the reason for Dumbledore's alarm, as she was unaware of how rare those runes were. I learned them from a book. How else? Victoria replied. A book? You mean a book from your... Yes, Victoria admitted. Is something wrong with those runes? Lily asked. I learned them myself and they're very efficient. I wish I'd had the chance to use them when I was still in school. Did you also teach this to Harry? Dumbledore inquired further. I would have, but he wasn't interested in learning a new rune system, Victoria said. Dumbledore seemed deep in thought, but Victoria added, I did teach them to Daphne. That girl has a lot of talent for this kind of magic. Dumbledore gasped. That's it then. Albus, what is going on? James asked. Yes, why are you so fixated on those runes? Lily pressed. She could understand curiosity but could tell this was more than academic interest. Do you remember those white marble golems used during the battle? Dumbledore asked. Of course we do, James said. How could he forget? I also saw them last year during the werewolf attack, Lily added, glancing at the small golem in her daughter's arms. Harry and Daphne based that little one on them, I'm sure of it. There is more you should know. Those golems are ancient, tremendously so. Even more ancient than the castle itself, Dumbledore revealed. More ancient than Hogwarts? How can that be? James asked. You mean they were already there when the 4 founders arrived? Lily asked. Dumbledore nodded. Exactly. The golems and the chamber where they rest were built by someone else, long before the 4 founders existed. I didn't know that, Lily said. Like James, she had assumed the golems were creations of the founders to protect Hogwarts. But that's not the strangest part. Dumbledore pointed at the small golem. Those runes were used as the foundation for their creation. Do you realize what that means? That's not possible, Lily said, glancing at Victoria. They wouldn't even exist in our world if... I don't get it. Is this more of that time travel nonsense? Victoria asked. Albus, are you implying that Daphne... James trailed off, staring at the small golem. It's just an idea, the Alpha and the Omega. An end needs a beginning as well, Dumbledore said before turning to Victoria. Do you remember the name of the book's author, the one where you learned these runes? Of course I do. He was very famous, Victoria replied. He was known as Rune Master Tom Marvolo Riddle, and he wrote many books on the subject. The room fell into silence. 9 years later, Loch Illt, Scotland. Hello, old friend. James knelt down and placed a pair of socks on top of the stone plate. We should have brought flowers. Lily frowned. This seems disrespectful. James shrugged. He liked socks. What can I do? Their eyes went back to the tomb in front of them. The plaque bore the name Albus Dumbledore alongside the date of his death, just 2 years prior. The former headmaster of Hogwarts had retired a few months after Harry's departure, leaving McGonagall in charge of the school. You think he at least enjoyed his last years? James asked. I mean, it's hard to say since we didn't see him much. He was always traveling around, but we did speak to him in his last year, and he seemed happy, Lily said. I suppose. I hope he didn't have any regrets. James sounded somewhat bitter. He couldn't think of death without thinking of his son Harry, and how he had died so young. Unlike Dumbledore, Harry probably still had so much he wanted to do. James, Lily placed a hand on her husband's shoulder, already knowing what he was thinking because she felt the same way. Tonight, Holly comes back home. She tried to change the subject to something that would lift his spirits. Right, I almost forgot. Wait, tonight, shouldn't the train be back in the afternoon? Yes, but Lyra and their friends wanted to celebrate. I think they had reservations at some fancy restaurant in Diagon Alley, Lily said. Ah, I can't believe our little daughter has already graduated. Time sure flies, James sighed. It does, Lily agreed, but hey, we still have another 10. Mom, Dad, a young red-headed boy with amber eyes came rushing toward them. Hey, what did I tell you about running in the cemetery? James said. Oh, sorry, the boy looked down. I thought you were going exploring, Lily asked. The boy shrugged. I did, but I was getting bored. There's nothing interesting to see here. It's a small island. We can visit London after this if you want, James suggested. You were talking about Hogwarts, right? Holly was coming back today, the boy said. That's right, but you probably won't see your sister until tomorrow, Lily told him. And when am I going to Hogwarts? He asked. James glanced at his wife. Why is everyone so impatient to go to school? When I was a kid, I only wanted to play with my friends. Lily knelt down next to her son. You'll go in less than 3 years. Trust me, time will pass faster if you don't think about it. And before you know it, you'll be on the train on your way to Hogwarts. Will I be in Gryffindor? He asked. There are no guarantees on that, James said. But, I want to be in the same house as all my siblings. Harry was there too, right? He had heard so many stories about his oldest brother that he almost felt like he'd met him already. At this point there were more books about Harry Potter than the boy who lived. It doesn't matter what house you get in, we will always be proud of you, Lily assured him. Yes, and to be fair, I still think that Holly should have been put in Ravenclaw, James commented. Lily flinched. The reason Holly was put in Gryffindor was that she had threatened the Sorting Hat. It had been one of her few acts of rebellion, but she had been very adamant about being in the same house as Harry. And she was made head girl, Lily muttered. Huh? The boy looked confused. Nothing. Don't worry about the sorting, Hadrian. I'm sure that no matter what house you end up in, you'll have a great time at Hogwarts, Lily said. Yes, Hadrian F. Potter said with excitement. King's Cross Stations. The train from Hogwarts arrived just in time. The doors opened and students began rushing out into the station, eager to meet their families. A red-headed girl in her mid-20s was seated on one of the benches, continuing to look toward the train doors as she fiddled with her wand. She wore the latest model of reinforced combat robes, and a golden aura badge hung from her neck. Come on, don't tell me you're going to be last, the girl huffed with annoyance. The students walking around the station glanced at her and murmured loudly amongst themselves, but none dared approach her or speak directly to her. It's her. I know, it's Potter. The girl's green eyes sharpened as she turned to the nearby students who were obviously talking about her. What? Do you have something to say? The students started and quickly scurried away. The girl went back to staring at the train. The rush of students had diminished considerably now, indicating the train was almost empty. Finally, the last 2 students exited through the doors, which closed behind them. A boy and a girl, both senior students, had red badges on their robes with the words head boy and head girl respectively. They exchanged a few words before the boy walked away, leaving the girl alone. She began scanning the crowd but didn't have to look long to find the person she was searching for, sitting alone on a bench and staring at her with an unfriendly expression. Oops, the girl hurried over to the bench. Sorry, Lyra, did I make you wait? Yeah, you made me wait. Why did you have to come out last? Lyra huffed. The girl's amber eyes shifted away from her sister. Well, you know, it was my duty to make sure everyone got safely off the train before I did. Lyra rolled her eyes. Holly, you just finished school. You need to stop taking everything so seriously. Holly's eyes snapped back to her, and she crossed her arms. I will not do that. And even if I've finished my education at Hogwarts, I still have a long way to go. Next year I'm beginning my master's in Golomancy under Professor Wagner in Germany. Lyra sighed, knowing there was no point in telling her sister to relax more. Holly had been dedicated to her studies since her first year. Take it easy for today at least. We're all going to Diagon Alley to celebrate. Victoria reserved a table for us at that fancy restaurant near the bank. Speaking of taking it easy, Holly glanced at her sister up and down. Why are you in full combat garb? You're not on duty, right? Lyra raised her wand. Constant vigilance. She stood from the bench and offered her arm to Holly. Come on. Wait, can't I at least stop at home to change, and I need to store my luggage, Holly said. Just call your elf to take care of the luggage, and I'm sure you can change the look of your robes yourself, Lyra replied. Holly furrowed her brow. She wanted to shower first but didn't want to keep her friends waiting. Dobby. The elf appeared with a loud pop. Holly, Mistress Potter, what can Dobby do for you? You could get her name right for once. Lyra muttered. Hi. Holly greeted the house elf warmly. After being freed by Harry, Dobby didn't waste time returning to the Potter Manor, where he requested to bond with Holly. Other than Harry, she had been the one Dobby grew closest to during their time together at the house. Can you take care of this? Holly handed over her large luggage case. And tell Mum and Dad I'll be home tonight. But not too early, Lyra added. After dinner we're going drinking and dancing. Holly grimaced at the thought. She wasn't as fond of partying as her sister. Once Dobby disappeared, she looked down at her school robes. With a wave of her wand, the robes transformed into elegant attire, a long black skirt and a silk jacket. Geez, you're only 17 and already dressing like a 30-year-old, Lyra teased. Careful, Lyra, you're almost 30 yourself, Holly shot back. I'm only 24, Lyra exclaimed. Holly glanced around the station. Most students and parents had already left, so she didn't worry about her proper girl image being tarnished by arguing with her sister. Okay, let's go. She stepped closer to Lyra and grabbed her arm. The two sisters disappeared from the station. Hun, the bar? Holly was surprised to find herself at the apparition point for the Leaky Cauldron rather than the one inside Diagon Alley, which was closer to the restaurant Lyra mentioned. Yes, I need to pick up my husband first, Lyra said, venturing inside the building. The bar was lively despite nighttime being hours away. Patrons played games, drank butterbeer, and chatted at the tables. Lyra headed straight for the counter, with Holly trailing behind. Oh, Agent Potter, the bartender greeted her warmly. Hello, Tom. Everything quiet today? Lyra asked, her eyes scanning the room. Everything's fine. I still haven't properly thanked you for the other day. You and your partner, the weird blonde one, really saved my bar. Lyra shrugged. Luna, and it was nothing. Just a couple of drunk fools who shouldn't have access to wands. I still owe you one. Can I get you something? It's on the house, unless you're on duty, Tom added, noting her combat robes and badge. Not on duty, but no thanks. I'm just looking for my husband. He said he'd be here. Tom pointed to the far corner. He's over there with his friend. Lyra thanked him and walked away. Soon they spotted Neville Longbottom and Ron Weasley deep in conversation. Ron, I don't think that's true, Neville said. I'm telling you, she was totally checking me out during dinner, Ron insisted. But Fleur is married to Bill, Neville argued, sounding exasperated. I swear the party pooper's here, Ron muttered when he noticed Lyra approaching. Is that what I am now? Lyra crossed her arms. Hey, come on, don't call her that, Neville said apologetically before turning to his wife. Sorry. Lyra shrugged and kissed Neville on the cheek. It's fine. She glanced at the counter, noting the numerous empty beer mugs. Most of them were undoubtedly Ron's, as Neville wasn't much of a drinker. Great, she thought. Anyway, we should get going. The girls are probably waiting for us, Lyra said. Right, Is that little Holly? Ron's eyes fixated on the younger Potter sister. Whoa, you've grown a lot since I last saw you. It's been a while, Ron, Holly said politely, though her tone carried a hint of reluctance. Ron was easily her least favorite Weasley. Ron smirked and raised his half-empty mug. Why don't you join us and have a drink? You're an adult now, right? Lunva snapped, stepping between Holly and Ron. She's 17, she jabbed a finger at Ron, and you'd better stop ogling her like a piece of meat before I— Okay, Neville interjected, hurrying to calm his wife. We need to go anyway. We can catch up this weekend, he told Ron. Ron shrugged. Whatever. He turned his attention back to his drink. As they exited the bar, Lyra turned to Tom. Hey Tom, Don't serve that redhead guy in the corner anything else today. He's had enough. You got it. Tom gave her a thumbs up. They passed through the brick gates and ventured into Diagon Alley proper. The shopping district had become much busier over the last few years since the threat of the Death Eaters had disappeared, and everyone felt safer venturing out. There was also a new addition at the center of the alley, right before Gringotts. A metallic statue of one particular wizard had been erected in the middle of the busiest intersection so everyone could admire it. It's so tacky. Lyra cringed at the statue. I don't know why you don't like it. They did a good job capturing his expression. Neville glanced at the statue. It had only been placed there 2 years prior by order of the Minister of Magic, but most people seemed to like it. Holly smiled at the statue and approached it. At the base of the statue was a large tray, where people often left offerings and gifts. Above it a plaque depicted the name of the wizard, as well as his many accomplishments. Hey Harry, Holly said as she looked up at the face of the statue. She pulled her wand out and conjured a small golem, similar to the first one her brother had created for her, and placed it on the tray. It should last for a week at least. I'll visit you again soon. Holly, come on. Lyra noticed they were attracting a lot of stares. This always happened when people recognized them as the Potter sisters. Holly nodded and hurried to her sister's side. That's not his tomb, you know. It's kinda weird when you do that, Lyra whispered. Harry didn't have a tomb at all. This was because as far as the rest of the world was concerned he wasn't dead but had gone on a long journey across the world for research. At least that's what the minister came up with. Only a few knew the truth. I know, but I feel a bit closer to him when I do. I wish I could tell him so many things. Holly lamented that Harry had left when she was so young and couldn't witness her accomplishments. Holly, Neville looked at her with pity. He had a lot of experience when it came to losing family members. Oi, over here! They looked ahead and spotted Luna and Astoria. Luna was enthusiastically waving at them, while Astoria realized her friend's shouting had attracted a lot of attention. Lyra, over here! Luna waved excitedly from a nearby cafe. Prist, Luna, stop it, they've already seen us, Astoria said, looking embarrassed. Hey, Holly greeted the two girls. She hadn't seen them since the Christmas party at the ministry. Hello Holly, you're all grown up already, Luna chuckled. It hasn't been that long since we— Congratulations, you graduated first in your class, right? Astoria interrupted. Holly looked a bit nervous. Yes, Why are you two sitting here? Lyra cut in. I thought we were going to that restaurant. She pointed at the fancy location just a little ahead. Apparently there was some problem with our reservation or something like that. Ginny already went to take care of it. Don't worry, Luna said nonchalantly. Ginny is already here. What about Victoria? Lyra asked. Isn't that Victoria? Holly said, looking back toward the bank. A black-haired beauty had just come out, closely followed by a young girl carrying a large stack of papers. Yup, that's Lady Black all right, Lyra said. Is that a new assistant? I've never seen her before, Holly asked. I guess. She gets a new one every month or so, Lyra pointed out. Victoria recognized them quickly and walked toward them while her assistant struggled to keep up. Vicky, Holly was the first to greet her. She ran up to her and gave her a warm hug. I missed you so much. Victoria smiled. I missed you too, my dear. To Holly, Victoria had always been more like an aunt than a sister, and the two of them were very close. And I have something to congratulate you for your amazing performance at Hogwarts. Victoria turned to her assistant. Give me the thing. The thing. The assistant looked lost. The present for Holly. Come on, it's in bag number 3. Oh, number 3? The assistant tried balancing the papers in one hand while fumbling with her ring. Number 3 should be this. The ring transformed into a large bag, which the assistant barely caught before handing it over. Victoria didn't look very impressed. I bet she gets another assistant by next week, Luna whispered to Astoria. That's rude, Astoria whispered back. Let's see. Oh, here it is, Victoria said with excitement, pulling out a leather case with an intricate design. Here, my dear, I'm sure these will come in handy in your near future. Holly opened the case and was surprised by the contents. Vic, this is— Inside was a complete set of rune carving tools. Even an amateur could tell they were nothing ordinary. They're made with a mixture of magicite and goblin steel. The tips were crafted with the claws of the last ancient red dragon and designed by a renowned expert from France, Victoria explained. Isn't this too much? Holly hesitated, not wanting to imagine how much they had cost. Nothing is too much for you, Victoria said with a smile she rarely showed in public. In the Wizengamot court, she was known for her cold and calculating persona instead. Here, take this back. Victoria handed the bag to her assistant. Leave everything in my office, and you can retire for the day. I have private matters to attend to now. Yes, Lady Black, immediately. The assistant grabbed all her belongings and hurried away. It's difficult to find competent personnel. Victoria sighed. Maybe you're too exigent, Lyra suggested. Nonsense. There is nothing wrong with expecting the best for what I pay them. Victoria glanced Lyra up and down. Please, tell me you are not planning to have dinner in full combat garb. This is a fancy restaurant. You think they won't let me in? Lyra asked. I didn't say that, but... They all heard hurried steps approaching and turned just in time to see Ginny arriving. She did not look very happy. What's wrong? Holly asked. Yes, what's wrong, Gin? Did someone offend you? I will have them punished, Victoria promised. What's wrong is that you bought the whole restaurant, Ginny exclaimed, pointing at Victoria. Of course you asked me to. Victoria responded with an innocent expression. I asked you to make reservations. Ginny wanted to shout more but refrained, aware of the attention they were already attracting in the crowded street. I was going to do that, but then I discovered that the Rosiers also had a reservation for tonight on the top floor, and I refused to share the air with those people after what they said to you during the Christmas party, Victoria huffed. Isn't buying the restaurant a bit of an overreaction? Neville asked. Not at all. It is a flourishing business, and it will be even better in my hands. I'll consider it an investment, Victoria assured him. Okay. Ginny felt a bit less angry now that she understood the reasoning. But can you consult me next time, please? Sure. Victoria moved closer and held her hand. Can we go now? I'm starving, Lyra complained. Excuse me, Miss Weasley. Two young boys approached them. Yes. Ginny turned to them. One of the boys held out a small piece of parchment. Can you sign this, please? Ah, of course. Ginny was more than used to this. She pulled her wand from the holster and used it to mark the paper. The Holyhead Harpies are our favorite Quidditch team, one of the boys said. Yeah, and you're the best seeker in the world, the other added. I appreciate your support. Ginny handed the autograph back to the boys, who thanked her profusely. Once they were out of earshot, Ginny then whispered to herself, I can think of at least one better seeker than me, though. All right, let's go, Victoria said. Holly and Lyra followed closely behind. They're an odd couple. Do you think those two will get married one day? Luna asked Astoria. Should you be talking about marriage like that? It's only been 6 months since you got divorced, Astoria pointed out. Luna didn't seem bothered.
Didn't work out. My crumple-horned Snorkack didn't get along with his, what did he call them? I forgot.
Maybe next time you should date someone who doesn't see imaginary creatures, Astoria suggested. Luna chuckled. Now, where's the fun in that? Come on, don't fall behind, Holly called to them. Yeah, tonight is going to be a fun night. Let's go, Lyra exclaimed with excitement. It was a cloudy morning, as was typical for these grassy plains in the Highlands. 2 red deer were quietly grazing, their ears twitching as they remained alert to their surroundings. Suddenly, a cracking sound broke the peaceful silence, sending a wave of panic through the nearby wildlife. Animals scattered, fleeing toward the safety of the trees and undergrowth. A small black mass emerged from the crack that had formed in the fabric of space-time itself, hovering unnaturally in mid-air. It remained there, ominous and still, for several minutes. Then, the object began to change. It grew rapidly, expanding from the size of a tennis ball to a mass twice the height of an average man. Its shape was erratic, shifting as though it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. The wild animals, now at a safe distance, watched warily from behind the cover of trees and shrubs. This strange object was not merely black. It was so dark that it seemed to absorb all light around it. The air grew heavy and the clearing dimmed in its presence. None of the creatures could comprehend what they were seeing, but their instincts warned them. Fear the unknown, for it often brings danger. The black mass appeared to hover somewhere between solid and liquid, continuously shifting its form. Almost an hour after its arrival, It descended slowly to the ground. Its shape began to stabilize, eventually taking on the vague outline of a large human figure. Then came the sound. Faint at first, like distant murmurs, until it grew clearer. "Harry, I can't breathe." "You're talking so clearly you can." "The space is too small." Have we stopped moving?" "We were moving." "I think so. Wait, hold on. I think that—" "What? What's wrong?" "Wait a moment. I can see." "Me too. We're in a field." "Let me open it then." "Yes, please. I want to breathe fresh air again." Or something like that. The black robes of death which Harry had used to shield their bodies as they crossed through the veil, unfolded. From within emerged two figures. Daphne rushed out, gasping. "Air, fresh air." Daphne," Harry called out, scanning their surroundings cautiously.
"Whoa, this place is beautiful."
"Is this the afterlife? It looks too familiar, don't you think?" Daphne's voice brimmed with excitement. After so much time in darkness, even a cloudy sky and a grassy clearing felt like paradise. The setting might have been ordinary, cloudy skies, mountains, trees and grass, but to her it was heaven. "Daphne, you might want to—" She turned to look at Harry. He stood wrapped in his black robes, gesturing toward her. "What is it?" she asked. Then she glanced down and froze. "I'm naked." Harry adjusted his robes slightly. "I don't have anything on under these either." Though embarrassed, Daphne didn't panic. After all, there wasn't anything Harry hadn't already seen. She reached for her wand to conjure some clothing, but quickly realized her holster was empty. "My wand is gone too," she muttered. "Yes, it seems the black robes were the only things allowed through." "Well, those, and our bodies," Harry replied. "If these even are our bodies," he thought privately. "Here." With a wave of his hand, Harry conjured simple white robes. "I can't manage anything too intricate without a foci, but these should do for now." "Thanks." She quickly donned the robes. "Looks like I'll need to brush up on my wandless magic." The two stood in silence for a moment, taking in their surroundings and organizing their thoughts. "Harry, are we really dead?" Daphne finally asked. "I don't think so." Harry pinched his arm experimentally. The sharp sting confirmed his theory. The sensation of grass beneath his feet, the humid air filling his lungs, everything felt too real. "I can't say I know what being dead feels like, but I know what being alive feels like. And we are very much alive," he said firmly. "But how? We went through the veil. Nothing survives that." Daphne struggled to comprehend. She'd resigned herself to death, only to find herself alive and well. "I don't know either," Harry admitted. "I have a lot of questions too. The first being, where are we?" Daphne looked around. "The weather, the air, this feels like Scotland. It's all so familiar." Harry nodded in agreement. "Yes, there's something about this place." "But Harry, if we're alive," Daphne's voice wavered. "Does that mean the world is going to end? Did we fail?" "That would only be true if we were still in the same world," Harry replied. "You mean, how can you be sure?" "For now it's just a feeling, but there's a way to confirm it." Harry raised a hand. "Apparition." "Of course," Daphne exclaimed. "If we apparate to Hogwarts and talk to someone we know, we'll notice any differences right away." "Exactly." Daphne gave him a skeptical look. "Are you sure you can apparitate without a wand? I'd rather not lose an arm or a leg in the process." "It may not be perfect, but I'm confident I can avoid mutilation." "Fine." She stepped closer and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Let's go then." "Right." Harry closed his eyes and focused on Hogwarts' back garden, picturing it vividly in his mind. But after willing his body away, this one refused to move. This is strange," Harry said. "What's wrong?" Daphne had never seen Harry fail a spell. "I can't make a connection to Hogwarts' inner gardens." "Could the wards be keeping you out? I mean, if we are in a different world, then you wouldn't have access to them." "Right, I know what you mean, but no, this is different. I can tell when there's some ward preventing me from apparating. Now, it's just like the place I'm trying to go doesn't exist, so I cannot connect to it." Harry frowned. This was the first time this had happened to him. "Try a different one, then," Daphne suggested. "Okay." He was now thinking of the clearing next to Hagrid's house, at the entrance of the Forbidden Forest. "It's working," he said with a bit of trepidation, and then, the two of them disappeared from the spot. They reappeared before a thick forest. Daphne had no idea where they were supposed to be appearing, but this just looked like the same location they were just in. Harry looked around. There was indeed a forest ahead of him, but it was different from the Forbidden Forest, and Hagrid's house was not there either. Hold on. He looked around and realized something else. Harry, we are in the same place. Daphne pointed ahead. See those rocks over there? That's where we were before. This is the same clearing. Harry frowned. That's not possible. We should be inside Hogwarts grounds at least. Did you get the location wrong? Of course not. I never miss a spell. Harry glanced into the distance at a particular mountain range. Wait a moment. Something occurred to me. He knelt down and placed his hand on the dirt. The ground shook as Harry poured magic into it, and soon a stone platform began to form beneath his feet. Harry, what are you planning on doing now? Daphne observed the platform with curiosity. We don't have flying brooms, so this will have to do. Hop on. Harry pointed at the platform. You want to fly? It was then that Daphne realized. As Harry did the same thing, she looked into the distance toward that particular mountain range. Without saying another word, she jumped onto the platform, and Harry used his magic to make it levitate into the air. With the two of them standing on it, the stone structure continued to rise upwards until the trees beneath them looked like tiny points. They now had a fantastic view of the whole clearing. Harry had seen this landscape a lot more than Daphne, since he liked to take flights around the castle on his broom. But even for her it became very obvious, once she got a complete view of the place they had been standing in. This is Hogwarts, but there is no castle. Hogwarts was only built 1,000 years before our era, Harry said while moving the platform toward the mount where he remembered the castle being. You mean we traveled in time, 1,000 years into the past? Daphne said. I think we're much further back than that. Harry observed the grounds very carefully. What makes you say that? Daphne asked. He made the platform descend once more, but this time it rested on the flat part of the mount where the castle was supposed to have been built. There was something else built here before Hogwarts existed, the foundations on which the castle was resting, and it's not here yet. You mean the chamber with the golems? Right. You did mention that it was older than the castle, Daphne realized. Much older. The chamber, the Arkstone, and the golems were created by someone else, and it was done long before the four founders existed. I can feel the flow of magic rushing beneath us. This is no doubt the place where the foundation was created, but there is nothing yet. So we are in the distant past, but is it still the same world? Daphne wondered. It would be terrible if after all of this their sacrifice was for naught. Harry shook his head. You could say yes and no at the same time. We are before all of that. Before all of that, she wasn't sure what he was referring to. In 1899 the first time travel experiment was conducted by the Department of Mysteries. A woman named Eloise Mintumble traveled to the year 1402, where she remained for 5 years, and then died upon her return. She died? She went back 500 years, and when she returned all those years were added to her age. It all happened very quickly, and her body wasn't able to take it. This had been one of the issues that people had encountered with time travel. If you go back too far, you will age on your return the same amount of years that you traveled. I never heard any of this, Daphne said. It's a bit of obscure knowledge that I gained from my research. But that's not the important part. Because of this discovery, time travel became more restricted, and only allowed for very short amounts of time. At first it was 1 year, then months, and finally, days. The current time turners can only travel a maximum of 12 days back in time. They cannot go further than that. Yes, I do know about that, but I still don't see where you're getting at, Daphne said. All of the alternate worlds and different timelines were created because people traveled back in time and changed things. These paradoxes gave birth to different worlds where events changed. The differences could be small or big, but they were all related to some time travel someone had done. Daphne gasped, finally understanding what he was trying to say. So you mean that we are in a time before time travel existed, so there cannot be multiple worlds. We are currently in the original world, likely many thousands of years into the past, the one and only in existence, before everything splits apart, Harry explained. So we did it then. Harry nodded. The world that we came from should be stable now without me in it. Daphne went to his side and hugged him tightly. We did it. She felt like celebrating. And we're alive. We are, although without knowing which year we're in. I don't even know if there are people around. We could be in the caveman era or even before that. I doubt we're that far back. I mean, I saw some red deer back in the plains, but still, the important part is that we have each other. Daphne leaned forward, and the two kissed. Always, Harry told her. They remained in each other's embrace for several minutes, thinking about everything that had happened and everything they could do now. So, what now? Daphne asked. How about living here? Harry suggested. Here? Yes, we could build a house right here on this mount, Harry said. Maybe a cozy cabin for the two of us. Daphne smiled warmly. That sounds like a lovely idea. Time passed for the two of them, but they would soon realize that their aging process had been affected after their journey. Decades after their arrival in this ancient era, Harry and Daphne still looked to be in their late teens. It was unknown to them if this was a side effect of their trip, or something related to Harry being the master of death, and Daphne having tied her soul to his, thus inheriting some of his abilities. They explored the world, but humanity was still in its infancy, and they had little interest in them. So they eventually returned to their home and began a large project. It had become clear to them at this point that they were the only ones who had the skills and knowledge to create the foundations for what would one day be Hogwarts. It took centuries of work to create the massive chamber, carve the gigantic arkstone that was linked to the river of magic flowing beneath it, which would go on to power the entire castle, and construct the 101 golems that would serve as protectors for future generations. After finishing it, Harry and Daphne's little wooden cabin was sitting on top of this massive underground structure. Unfortunately, the concentration of magic from the arkstone would attract the attention of a magical race that populated the island, the elves. At first, Harry tried to reason with them. As long as they left this place alone, neither he nor Daphne cared if the elves took the rest of the British Isles. But the elves got too greedy, and tried to attack them. That did not go well for the elves. Daphne ended up cursing the few survivors to become what wizards would know as house elves. A bit later they received the visit of some vampires, who were also quickly exterminated. Harry didn't know it at the time, but a young vampire lord called Ankara was one of the few who survived to tell the tale. It was hard to tell how long it had passed after that, but it was a very long time before they finally received the visit of a wizard named Godric Gryffindor, who was looking for a location to build a school where all wizard kind could study magic without fearing being hunted by muggles. Soon, the other three founders would arrive. Harry and Daphne gifted them the land, and even helped with the construction of the castle, but did not remain there. Their aging process had slowed down tremendously, but it did not stop. By the time Hogwarts was complete, Harry and Daphne had the appearance of an elderly couple. Knowing that they had little time left, the two of them decided to travel the world once more to see how much it had changed since their last trip. Almost 3 centuries later, they died in each other's arms while watching the sunset from a small wooden cabin. They died satisfied and happy after living much longer than anyone thought possible. They had done everything they had wanted to do and knew that the future would be in good hands after their departure. Now it was time for their next adventure, still together, as always. The end.